Welcome back to ChristianHomeChurch.com and part 2 of my interview with Meagan Frank, the author of Choosing to Grow Through Marriage. All right, we were able to get Meagan back on the phone, going through her book, Choosing to Grow Through Marriage. We've already asked her some background questions, and Meagan, if you don't mind, let's get a little bit more personal. What kind of advice would you offer to men out there who might pick up this book or might be re-examining their own marriages, their own life, where they are in life? What advice would you give to men?
You know, that's a great question, because the interviewees for this book were women. That's who I interviewed. But I think the men that have read it, and there have been a few, have realized from the perspective of women what we go through. And that is incredibly valuable, to be able to step into the shoes of someone, especially if you've decided to devote your life to them and to understand them. So my advice to men would be to tap into that emotional side of themselves and to open themselves up to hearing what it is that women are trying to say on an emotional level and an intellectual level, and to really hear the concerns or the problems that their wife may be having. There are some things in the book that'll tap into that, but if they have those conversations with their own wife, then they'll be able to make some adjustments for how they love her, how they're involved with her, how they can emotionally connect with her, and that is always so important in a marriage.
Great. Now, what advice to the women would you give? What would you say to them?
Well, I would say the same thing. I think trying to understand the roles and expectations that they have of themselves and of their husbands. And one of the things that I think, is one of the harder concepts is accepting your role as a submissive wife. And I truly and honestly believe that that is the design. That's how marriage is meant to work. And it's not exactly the most comfortable term these days when there's so many women who are powerful and they have all sorts of roles that are at a level, maybe at a higher level than their husband, financially or whatever. But I think giving him the reins for the house and letting him be the person that is in charge of how things go is incredibly important to the stability of their family and to the overall health of their marriage.
Very sound advice, very biblical. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I asked you earlier about if the book would be good for those who are contemplating marriage or going through the courting process. What about those folks who are looking at marriage a few months down the road, looking at their wedding, picking out the dress, picking out the invitations? What would you say to them right now?
Well, I think definitely making sure to take time for not just the wedding preparation, but for the marriage preparation. I think being really honest with themselves about what baggage they bring, because we all do. To whatever relationship we start, we're bringing something, experience from previous relationships, experience from childhood, and to really dive into those bags before you get married, to understand what some of those things, not that it's going to stop them from getting married, but just to prepare them for some of the things that might be hurdles coming down the road, and knowing that family dynamic for both sides, because when you marry someone, you don't just marry that one person, you marry their entire history and their family, and anybody that they've had contact with, they kind of all come with. So understanding that at a level that is deeper than, who's going to sit at what table at the wedding. So those sorts of things make a big difference.
Very true. Very true. Boy, you brought up some real good stuff that I've experienced myself in growing with my wife. We've been married for coming up on 16 years. Mm-hmm. And boys, it is. You're absolutely right. That it's a whole new world after you say I do. And some of the things you hadn't talked about, ranging from children to faith to common ground, common interests that, we all put the best foot forward before we say I do and become more ourselves after we say I do. And those who may find themselves where maybe they're on the edge, Meagan, maybe they're on the edge of saying, I quit. What would you say to those who are at that point, who are, all they need is about half of a reason more to say, we're
right.
done, we're through? What would you say to them?
Well, I think it really comes down to deciding that you're going to find all the reasons to stay. Because I think if you're looking hard enough, you can find both positive and negative to find, decide depending on what it is you want to see. If you want to see all the negative, you will. If you want to see all the positive, you will. You just have to decide what you're going to look for. And I think the longer you're with someone, the easier it is to get annoyed with their habits that bother you and to get frustrated with the negative, to focus on that, but to find the reason why you love them in the first place and to focus every day on why they should be praiseworthy and give them reasons that, I mean, on my blog I have a line that says, my husband is awesome, my husband is awesome, my husband is awesome, and I spend the whole rest of my time figuring out how I can defend that. And that is, it's true. You have to decide that that's what you're going to do. And I think just exhaust every resource you can. Make sure that you've really invested in trying to coordinate. If you have to bring in an expert, try to bring in an expert. If you need to read more about things and try on your end to improve yourself, because we all have ways that we can be better spouses, work there first. Do as much as you can to improve that. Encourage your spouse to do the same, and just continue working until you've exhausted absolutely everything. And I contend that you wouldn't get to that point where it would be time to be done.
Very true. The book is called Choosing to Grow Through Marriage by Meagan Frank. Meagan, where can folks find your book?
My book is available on my website at meaganfrank.com. It's also available through Treasureline and on Amazon and Kindle. So on the Amazon.com site, you can get a hold of it there too.
And we're going to have it featured here on ChristianHomeChurch.com, possibly any type of specials. Meagan, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Pat. This has really been great. I really appreciate you.